right, we are live. Okay, let's get cooking here. Cool. So welcome back to the Think Tank Live. At Think, we're upgrading how America chooses its leaders so you can finally vote for you. Here's the problem. The system's broken. Not just broken, it's rigged. Big money and party gatekeepers decide who's electable before you even see the ballot. So we're building something completely new. We're calling it digital politics, a lens that cuts through left versus right and asks a simpler question: up versus down. Does this leader serve power or do they serve you? Right now, we're in phase one. The Digital Politics Hub is where citizens are plugging in, taking action, and building the people power to launch what comes next. Phase two is the end game, digital democracy, a citizen-owned platform where every candidate gets equal visibility and you can actually find leaders who represent you. The goal is simple: better choices, your choices. If you're new here, follow the show so you don't miss what's coming. And if you want to become part of what we're building, join us at hub.futureis.org. Become a citizen architect, become a future owner of digital democracy. All right, let's plug in.
Awesome. Yeah, so Travis, I'm really excited about this episode. And we're going to be talking about why, there's good people running for office, good people, making reform movements, and just good citizens trying to push those efforts forward. But gosh, election cycle after election cycle, year after year, decade after decade, why are we still fighting these same battles and seemingly in the same spots we were X amount of years ago? And that's what we're going to get into today. And that's what we've really refined our language internally about think being a civic utility, right? Not just being a repetition of previous movements, how we're really building this connective tissue and this shared stage and shared environment for movements, not only to plug into each other, but to plug into a system that you don't need to have the most money or the most power to be visible. And that's something I think is so amazing to get into. Yeah, so for our first section, this is something that I think people see and feel, but they don't really have a name for it. So what we're talking about is good effort after good efforts, and money happens and voting happens and you get signatures. But gosh, all of those things seem to fade, disappear, or gosh, lead to nothing. And that creates people who, you get burned out and you get kind of disillusioned often at the power of social change. So that is what Think is bringing to the table, addressing the coordination problem that is happening in reform movements and politicians. So, yeah, Travis, could we go a bit into why are there such strong movements with strong supporters behind them, and why are they failing in the current system to provide that lasting change that they want?
Yeah, so ultimately, it boils down to the system itself. Those that are in power don't want reforms, don't want these changes. They like their power. They like having the cards stacked in their favor. So that's the crux of the issue, is that it all boils down to the concentration of power. And for those that are newer here, when we talk about concentration of power, the main three evils that we talk about is really party gatekeepers, big money, special interests, and then the establishment media. So all three, they might have a left or a right leaning, but they're all pro status quo. They're all pro keeping the system the way it is today. And so they're not, so they're doing everything they can really to move things to not change. And so really it boils down to, for the reforms and these organizations trying to do good work, is that it boils down to infrastructure. That they're trying to use the current system to move their goals forward, and again the system is stacked against them. So they're using infrastructure that is purposely meant to keep things the way they are. And so that's why what we're proposing is completely new infrastructure, new civic infrastructure that plugs in everything from citizens, independent journalists, movements, reforms, influencers, podcasters, and grassroots candidates, so that they do have better infrastructure to organize, who agrees with this, who wants to support this, we have a certain initiative we're doing, who's on support of this, which candidates want it, what other organizations want it, what citizens want it. So a lot of just organizing tools to help build out what they're trying to accomplish, build a consensus around what they're building, and bring awareness to it. Right now, in the olden way is to use the establishment media to be the megaphone of what organizations are doing, or what anyone's doing. And now we want to replace that. Since you can't count on the media, you want to count on independent media, independent journalists, to be the megaphone that the establishment media refuses to be. So building one infrastructure where independent journalists are there, podcasters, and these movements and candidates all in one system that can help them organize and amplify what they're working on. That's how you get past that issue.
And when we talk about amplifying and organizing, to me, yeah, it's about connecting, the people and the politician and the movement and the actual players of the game. But something that I think happens in the current system is there's almost this reset button after every election cycle, or some kind of deadline. And you can donate the right amount of money and have the right amount of signatures, but unless the establishment allows that to move forward, you got to rebuild all that momentum and all those efforts every single, be it an election cycle or whatever your goal is. But it's really about, yeah, bridging the conversation gaps that the current system doesn't provide, but also bridging the effort, the momentum of effort. Uh, yeah, so I just think that's such a special uh, product of digitizing and providing the digital world to provide that continuity of efforts.
Yeah, so like you're saying, it's in the way it has been in the past. Like, how many times have you seen a powerful candidate exist and then they fade out after the election, or these movements they're trying to move in a certain direction, and then a lot of times they fade out. Not all movements, but obviously we're not making good progress these days in any efforts. So something has to change. That's key to what we're about, is changing the patterns. But yeah, so with now that we're at the digital age, there's such easier ways to connect. It doesn't just have to be about the protest, or like even just email. Like, things are more evolved than just having to email people and stuff like that. We have such more advanced technologies to keep people organized, coordinate, combine like-minded efforts. Because like one of the issues is like there's a lot of reforms that are kind of doing the same things in a lot of ways, but then they're not compounding their efforts, and they're working separately. And like when we're talking about voting power and influence, like you can't be divided on an issue that's so similar. Or like nothing will ever change if like there's just slight differences. Like you agree 90% of the time, but that 10% makes you guys have completely separate efforts. Because when you split that, you're splitting the voting power, resources, donations, everything gets split. And like, right now we're trying to overcome the concentration of power. There's like this 1% that has so much, like practically unlimited money, all this influence, all this power. So we can't be divided. We can't keep fighting over and splitting hairs on the specifics. And luckily with the digital age, we can work through that. Like you could check off exactly where one movement stands, and then understand where you're the same, where you're different. So there's a lot of new ways to find those commonalities and move forward on commonalities. That's a big piece that we're about, is like, don't focus on where you're different, focus on where you're the same and where you agree to move something forward. That's key to making real change in this country, is sticking to what you're agreeing on. Like, don't focus, like we bring up a good example is libertarians and progressives. They're very different in so many ways. Progressives want strong government, libertarian wants light government. But there's so much that they have in common that they would agree that would help both of them, of like, overcoming money in politics, and more transparency in the system, and better chances of independents and third parties starting to make a mark. Like, both groups would tremendously benefit from a lot of these different issues. And so, they have to stop focusing on the differentiations and focus on the common good, work towards what we can agree on, start making progress in those realms. And then, yeah, there's going to be time when you're going to compete and you're going to, fight over like what the best course of action is. But like, let's start, there's so much commonality, let's just start there, because like, just everything's too divided and we're never going to get anywhere with the division.
I absolutely love that I forget exactly how you framed it, but yeah, let's find where we overlap and let's actually work towards that common goal. Because think is not about left versus right. It is about representation, and it is about choosing leaders that actually want to get done the things you elected them to get done. So when there are these hair-splitting moments, if you don't even have people in power that want kind of the baseline issues that we all want, nobody wins when we split hairs. So if we can identify these huge gaps that transcend party lines and transcend the political spectrum of wherever you may fall, and getting people elected that also hold those same larger swath values, that is where we can start to build that momentum of wins. And down the line we can split hairs, but really it's about building that base of quality candidates, and really uplifting the voices, the journalists, the movements, and the people trying to make democracy better, and allowing a platform, not a platform, a civic infrastructure and network opportunity for those large swaths of common goals to really be planted and grow. And yeah, I think that's a real beauty that the hub brings, because every other kind of social media platform where politics is discussed, you're looking for your enemy and you're looking for a win, through argument. But where is building? Where is collaboration? Where is a hope for the future? And that is something so vital to what the hub and eventually digital democracy can bring to the table.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me set the room and we will keep rocking and rolling. So a quick reset, if you are just tuning into us, we are Think, and Think is building civic infrastructure to upgrade how America chooses its leaders. We cut through left versus right to ask a simpler question. Does this leader serve power, or do they serve you? Are they people first, or are they power first? And that's what we call digital politics. So if the things we're talking about hits home, we would love if you dropped a comment, share the live with your friends and family, and join us in building that future at hub.futureis.org. Great. Let's plug back into the conversation. So here, I want to talk about how, kind of give a visual, a mental visual of how the old system, the siloing, the disconnection, the gap in effort, isn't a whoops-a-daisy kind of thing of, oh, we forgot that, people need to work together, whatever it is. It is a core feature that is, maybe this is a little extreme to say, but is actively worked on, actively identified by the establishment to be a benefit to them staying in power. So, citizens are separated from candidates, candidates separated from movements, right? And that goes down the line. Journalists and other movements, they all have this scattered effort. And with that scattered effort comes scattered efforts for fundraising, for signatures, for identifying good and bad, I guess, politicians who promote these quality uh, policies that we all want. So, Travis, if we could start getting into how the digital politics lens really identifies and helps bring together from fragmentation into coordination.
Yeah, sure. So like what you've been touching on, like, everyone's kind of grouped separately: citizens, separate candidates, movements, and then like the whole journalism media world is completely separate. Like I've noticed that more and more as we've been building this organization and mission. But you know people that are doing political commentary are very severed from those that are like in the politics, when both play humongous part in influencing voters and understanding what's going on in the world. People look at media and need trusted media to be able to know how to navigate. But so at the end of the day, everyone's busy, but no one's like really coordinating, and that's the key. That is a problem right now. So with the up down lens of digital politics, the idea is, it like, because we fight so much on left versus right, and then there's such variance between left versus right. Like there's MAGA right, there's like moderate Republican right, then there's progressive left, centrist left. Like there's so many divisions, and like ultimately, like, yeah, we're gonna disagree on certain policy stuff, but grouping it so broadly is divisive and dangerous. Ultimately what we want to do is start looking at things as like more policy by policy. Like, hey, I might stand on this side of this policy, but I stand on this other side of this other policy. So don't group me in. I'm a this, I'm a that, whatever. I'm just a human, and this is where I stand on each issue. But so ultimately the up down lens, the idea is that more importantly than voting like, oh, that person is more right leaning, I'm left, so I hate their guts, more importantly is like, are they trying to actually represent the people, or are they representing power? That's the up down lens. So I would much rather have somebody that I don't necessarily agree with in policy, but they're not bought out and they're not owned by special interests. And that's what people really need to start understanding is like, you might be a Democrat, and so you assume your leaders are fighting for everything that you want to fight for, and they might talk as if they are, but they're not, not 100% of the time, but like 90 or 95% of the time. They have special interests that are going to guarantee that they don't fight for you when push comes to shove. And that's what more and more people are already waking up to. I mean, like all the stats are showing people are leaving both parties in droves. For the first time in modern history, more people identify as independent than are Democrat or Republican. Tons of stats like that. So people are waking up to this, but we have to see the division is more about people versus power than it is about left versus right. And like, half of Congress could be Democrat, half could be Republican, but if they weren't bought out, they could things would get better. They would find ways to compromise, find policies that genuinely move the needle forward, improve the economy, healthcare, everything would move forward. Yes, there's going to be issues to fight on, but there's so much that like it doesn't matter, like 100% of one party, but they're all in bed with the special interests. It's not going to get better no matter which party's in power. It has to be that those that are in power don't have all these conflicts of interest, and that they're actually representing you as the citizen and not who's giving them the most money.
100%. And such a good example of this is I saw it yesterday on Facebook, but the House in the next 48 hours, I guess now, is going to vote on a bill that would ban sitting members of Congress from trading individual stocks. That is something we think, no, that crosses party lines. right? So like Travis's example, if there were half, you know, however you want to label it, red, blue, Democrat, Republican, left, right, in theory, the vast majority of all of them would have the ability to pass that bill. Yet, if like Travis said, if they're bought out by special interests, or gosh, if they are sitting in Congress right now because of the benefits of being allowed to trade stocks, that is not serving the people. That is not a down-serving candidate, regardless of party. Um, so these things, this lens is so applicable today, right? We're not just, oh, it'd be such a nice fairy tale world if, regardless of party, we could all talk to each other. This is real life situations that how many times are we going to have whatever Democrat majority Congress or Republican majority, and like whether or not you are subscribed to that party, neither side does a lot of good, right? They push their party's agenda again, but only if that's approved by the establishment. So look out for your current sitting House members. Are they voting in a way that we believe most Americans feel that Congress should not have the ability to trade stocks and get rich off of their position? Um, so this is such a great living current issue that we could really dive into the appropriateness of the up-down lens and almost the inappropriateness of identifying it as left versus right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like you're just saying, people just have to understand, like it's all about follow the money. Everyone, like virtually everyone, intuitively knows that money in politics is a horrible thing. I mean, everyone knows that. It just most people don't know how deep it really goes. Like every single decision, every like practically every word they say is ultimately controlled by money. And like like when you made your comment a few minutes ago saying that neither side makes like really puts good bills into office and whatnot. Like I guarantee some people are listening, oh well, when Biden was here he did blah blah blah. Like you have to understand, and then they'll also, oh well, they wanted to do it, they just didn't get the votes, this that. Like what you have to understand is like they have to have excuses. Like they can't just admit to you, oh I'm sorry, I'm not going to fulfill any of my promises because I got big donors that they gave me money so I don't fulfill my promises, sorry, vote for me next time. They can't say that the system wouldn't work if they don't keep the facade. So of course they're always going to have excuses, oh we didn't get the votes or this or that. And like yes, some can be true to some extent, but a lot of it is more of excuses. Like it's design. It's by design. It's by it's the system itself that kind of brings us to this point. Like imagine those that are like never Trumpers and like really fear Trump. Like imagine if Biden actually had a really good term and like the economy was getting better and people's pain points were actually dissolving, then it wouldn't have flipped back. But like he did not do much. And again, you could give the excuses of why, but and we're not even saying maybe it's not Biden's fault. Like you could blame him, the party, or the system. It boils down to the system. um we're not blaming anyone in particular, but if things were genuinely getting better during somebody's term and people actually felt it, like people wouldn't wouldn't completely flip around in the next election. But people are in massive amount of pain right now, and so they're scrounging onto any form of solution that they see. And like him or hate him, Trump speaks like to the working people in a lot of ways. He speaks like a populist. Whether he is or not is definitely up for debate, but he talks more about the pain points, and so some people really buy into that. And like I'm not saying in any way to agree with him, but you have to understand that's part of why he gained his popularity is those kinds of things. um And the key here is having people that will actually fulfill those promises, will speak in a language that the American people resonate with, but then actually fight for it. And the only way you're going to be able to fight for it is not having those conflicts of interest. And so again, we're building this new infrastructure so that you don't have to rely on the system. If you win purely by having big donors and pay to play dinners, and like you're creating this like network of concentrated power, then of course once you're elected you owe them everything. And so if you're going to elect somebody that won that way, they're forever beholden to those people. So we need to vote for people that focus on small dollar donations. There's more and more, it's getting more common that there's politicians that swear off super PACs, swear off corporate donations. And there's people both on the left and the right that are moving in that direction. And that's what we need to nurture that, show them that is the right method. And for us, I think we want to see that happen across the board, left, right, third party. Everyone should be moving towards the small dollar donations, because small dollar donations means that you're trying to get as many people to feel like you're representing them as possible. That's democracy. When you're getting a handful of people giving you large chunks of money, that is not democracy. That is catering to a small group of people, however wording you want to use, kleptocracy or whatever. But if your goal is to take small amounts of money from a lot of different people, like that's basically the same as getting votes. And so that's the healthy form, that's more democratized. And ultimately we don't want campaigns to be that expensive, but at this point that's the way to fight it, is by small dollar donations.
Absolutely. And that small dollar grassroots methodology of kind of buy-in and who you owe your allegiance to as a politician, because they got you into that seat of power. A politician can turn around to regular citizens like us and say, oops a daisy, I tried my best. Thanks for 4 years of my job. I'll try again next year or whatever. If a politician has gotten to their seat of power through big money and big power and big media, you better bet your bottom dollar that they're turning to those people and saying, oops a daisy, I didn't vote the way you wanted to. So who a politician owes their voting power, but also their kind of servitude to, that is what we are about. The first call a politician gets when a new bill is on their desk should not be big pharma, big tech, big energy, and how they want it. There should be better infrastructure for that politician to hear from us and for them to communicate with us. How do you guys feel about it? What is your intent? That communication piece is certainly not there today. We like to pretend it is with town halls, and yeah, I guess your senator has a phone call or a phone line that you could call, but let me know. Let me know if you ever get a hold of your senator, because that would be great. But yeah, so not only is it better at identifying how and who a politician serves, it's this civic infrastructure that is being built with America also provides an intimacy with those that we put into power. There should be this feedback loop. How do I feel about it once I get you into power? Because God, you're meant to represent me. You're not there just to be king of, the county or the district that you serve. It's always meant to be this habitual loop of communication. But yeah, I got kind of sidetracked there. But Travis, I wanted to go into a bit of, since we're talking about reform efforts, and it's kind of the day and age of protests, why does the system seemingly tolerate protests yet resists coordination?
Yeah, so that's a big one. So protesting, we're not knocking that there's no reason for protesting, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have the teeth that some people think it does. And so really the establishment likes it because like people are burning off their energy, their frustration, they're feeling like they're doing something, they're doing it, it does something, not nothing, but they're organizing to go to this protest, a certain event that's happening, and like so they have millions of people organizing, taking buses, doing this whole thing, spending a whole day. To the establishment, that's just burning the energy. It's like letting the hamster run on its wheel so that you put your energy in, you volunteered, maybe somebody's doing a couple hours a week to coordinate all this stuff, to coordinate the protests, get the buses moving. We saw a little bit as we've been talking to reforms, we've seen how much work goes on into it for the nonprofit side of things. So people are spending all their volunteer energy, their civic energy into coordinating and then doing this event, this one-time event, then burning off all their energy on this. And like, there's some catharticness to this, to doing it and expressing yourself and seeing others there. Like, again, there's some social benefits to it. But at the end of the day, it's not bringing the pressure on as much as people would like to believe. Maybe it used to in the past, but like now that like it's like, okay, well, there's 2 million people protesting today, but there's like $60 million over here saying don't do what they're asking. So before there's less money to person ratio, and now it's just so beyond floodgates open, millions and millions of dollars in the drop of a hat can be spent, that how can a couple million humans protesting compete with tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, if the establishment needs it. So they don't mind the protesting because it's burning off the energy. In fact, not to call out specific examples, but we have some theories that some big movements that exist right now, like seem to be on the people's side, but are really mainly there just to help burn off the energy and focus people on not real change. And like it's more of like, well, let's just go back to before Trump, where all the bad stuff was more hidden. Rather than getting rid of the bad stuff, let's just let's go back to pretending it's not there again. And so we see some movements that their intention is more about letting people burn off the energy, burn off the protesting, and then and then people do the protest one time. Maybe they're going to do it in 3 or 4 months later, but then they feel they've achieved something. They might stop for a while. They're going to stop doing anything for a little while. So that is a way, that's a tactic that actually works in the establishment's favor. So go ahead, you want to say something?
Yeah, oh yeah. So as we're talking about protests and these kind of large scale rallies happening, like Travis said, we're not dogging them, but the establishment has the luxury of not responding to this large scale people movement vocalization of discomfort. They don't need to care about what the people, both parties, right? Both parties, all politicians, they don't need that. Because like Travis said, they are bought and paid for and have a seat of power and have their, they have their money, their power, their vacations, all the perks that come with being an elected official, because they're bought out, right? They're not they don't have to hear that you're angry. They can just turn off the news. But they're going to get that phone call from big money to put a foot up their behind. So what we're talking about is people want to be heard. People are expressing their pain points. People, if it's to call out a politician, if it's to get signatures, if it's to raise money, where is that coordinated effort? If it's in your little local town, great. But where is the efficiency of that? Where is the collective momentum that the establishment certainly has all the bells and whistles of being in the digital age and coordinated efforts and just this large network of other establishment entities. So where is the rivalry of people power, grassroots power? And that is what we're talking about. Where's the continuity? What happens an hour after the protest? How do we stop the sharp cliff efforts of efficiency? As soon as you go home and you get your kids McDonald's on the way home and you take a nap, that effort that you were very clear on, you're upset, you're angry, you want things to change. What's step two? And that's really what we're trying to bridge the gap of.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Very, very well said. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we need to prove that this dissent translates into change, into voting, like changing how the election results, essentially. So so for example, even if millions of people come out on a protest, if it's not clear what they're fighting for, some people are there for money out of politics, some here are there to just be against Trump, some are there, like, everyone's there for a good reason, but you're not saying like, hey, 10 million people want money out of politics, or these many people want this. What are the consequences if you don't follow what we're saying? What are the consequences? This is what we're demanding, and this is what happens if we don't get what we're demanding. That's what it needs to boil down to. So these protests are not organized that way. It's very possible there would be a way to organize it that way, but not top down in the way it's structured today. I could actually envision an integrated thing, work coordinating with what we're building, and then doing a protest where there's a very set demand. For example, if there's 3 million people that are willing to protest, maybe there's like, what we want to build is like a consensus technology. Have people vote. What is like the main top 3 demands that we're asking of people, and then when we're in the protest, it's very clear to the public and to the politicians, these are the 3 things that we're demanding. We're demanding more like money out of politics. We're demanding safeguards on the presidential powers, and stop using too much power, and whatever it may be, whatever the American people want. But like, we need to have a consensus that you need to do X, Y, Z, and if you don't do that, there will be consequences. And that's ultimately what we're building here, is a way to do that, a way to structure it. We're not telling you what that demand should be. We're giving you the tools to figure it out yourselves, of like, you could propose an idea, see if people build traction around it, see how many people want it. And if it has enough shape, it'll keep growing and growing. And then eventually you have a real voting block of people like, hey, we're going to change who we're voting for. This block of people, this X amount of people in a certain district, state, federally, showing them that you're actually going to impact the results of an election. That's really the only way that this is going to speak to them. Because at the end of the day, right now, they feel so empowered that, look, you're going to vote D down the line, or you're going to vote R down the line. So there's a lot of leeway there. Yes, they have to do some swing voters, and it's not that simple. But at the end of the day, you're not gonna vote for the other party. They know that. So you're gonna vote for the shitty your party rather than the other party. So tough, basically, from their perspective. So it starts with the primaries, that we need better candidates elected in the primaries. So you have a better Democrat, better Republican. That's the key starting point. But ultimately, so it's around showing that we can become, that we have to turn a mass amount of people into a clear voting block, and like, we are going to vote together based on the actions you have, and there will be consequences as a politician if you do not follow the will of the majority.
Yes, that was so well put, Travis, and that makes me want to go into our third segment. But I want to preface it with saying that not only is it about having a clear result that you're looking for and better tactics, it's also about moving from kind of pen and paper efforts into the digital world. You could have 100 sign-up sheets for people to put their name down in, but you're going to lose your pen. People are going to give you BS answers, whatever it is. But in the digital age, we are able to access a lot more people in real time and affect those aggregation efforts in real time as well. So it's not so much about, hey, protest people, you suck, your thing sucks. It's about, hey, there's a better way to do it. There's an upgrade that needs to happen because, gosh, the system we are fighting, they work in real time. We need to work in real time as well. So let me reset the room and then we'll get into Think's ability to actually make change with people, citizen architects, people joining the movement, and people building this with us. So quick resets if you are just tuning in. Think is building civic infrastructure to upgrade how America chooses its leaders. We cut through left versus right and to ask a simpler question. Does this leader serve power or are they serving you? So are they people first or are they power first? And that is what we call digital politics. So if what we're talking about hits home, we'd love if you dropped a comment, share the live with your friends and family, and join us at hub.futureiz.org. All right, we're going to plug back in. Yeah, so I'd like to go into more about the collective and collaborative efforts that the civic infrastructure we are building with America really is that bridge between where the current system forces us to stop our efforts and the goal we're trying to reach, right? So things like clusters, things like the communication tools that we're building. And also just how we're not shoving everyone else off the table and saying, here's our plan. We are saying, hey, we are identifying all of the good work that is being done in this fragmented system we have and saying, gosh, they need to be collected, or not collected, but connected in a better, plugged in to a better digital form of communication and activism and effort. So it's about standardizing the visibility of these reform efforts and politicians. It's building that trust, and it's about providing accountability because that's a big part of what's lost today. A politician can promise you the world, get elected, and whoops-a-daisy, for 40 years, I didn't do anything, but I have $10 million in my bank. Thanks, guys. Love you. Bye. So can we go into, Travis, some of the things that people can do today on the hub during phase one, and then maybe go into some of those kind of carrots on the stick of stage two that we're building with America?
Yeah, cool. Well put. Yeah, so for right now, phase one, that's all about our digital politics hub. So really think of the hub as a coordination hub. It's really to build out this digital politics network that, hey, you want a better democracy, you want to upgrade this system, you like what we're saying. So we want you plugged in. So you're plugged in to give feedback. You become a future owner of digital democracy. You get to give your own pain points, share your own voice, your frustrations. The hub itself is all about coordination and awareness. It's to spread the word, like, hey, this is what we're doing, but we need people power. We're building this with America, not just for America. We're not building this in the secret corner and just handing it to you. We're building this with you, step by step. You at the seat at all times. So the coordination hub, there's things like micro actions that you could take of helping amplify our work over social media, but then also other movements that are doing good efforts. Because it's really, with micro actions, it's about helping pollinate each other's social media. There's a certain grassroots candidate that you like, there's a journalist that you like, sharing, liking, following them, that helps them become louder, that helps their word get spread further. So if we all make a more calculated effort to amplify the right voices, the voices that should be louder, that makes a significant difference. Right now, right now people, and it's still going to be like this in the current system, but people can buy a louder voice on Facebook and TikTok and stuff like that, unfortunately. But there's also a lot of the grassroots style, and if we coordinate in this very impactful way, we can amplify the right voices significantly, to give them that louder voice in this stage. In stage two, we're going to build our own separate platform of digital democracy, and no one could buy influence. It's all about organic growth and truly resonating with the American people. But ultimately, right, what you could do right now is, amplifying different efforts, what we're doing, what others are doing, especially like what we're doing. I know it sounds selfish, but like, the core is that what we're creating amplifies every grassroots effort. Every potential solution that exists out there gets to be plugged into this. We're not competing with anyone. Some people say, oh, is this kind of like Forward Party? Well, first of all, not at all, but we're going to plug in Forward Party. Maybe some people decide that's the solution. Maybe people think that third parties like libertarians and green parties the solution. We're plugging them in. Maybe people think that we're never going to get out of the two-party system, but we need better candidates in two parties. Plug that solution in as well. Everyone gets plugged in. Everyone that's trying to actually have the right intention to bring actual representation and a better democracy, they get plugged in. It doesn't matter where they stand on political issues or strategy. It's about truly representing people is the key here. To summarize this, the hub is for like amplifying different efforts, plugging your own name in, giving your own feedback into what we're doing. Then there's a section to plug in trusted voices that we want to hear. Who do you trust? Who do you think of? There's a journalist that you think would love what we're talking about, influencers, podcasters. Are there candidates that you're like, oh, this is a really good person, they don't take any corporate money, no super PAC money, and they really do try to represent the people? We want to know about these people. We want to connect to these different groups, different groups, different candidates. We want to build out, again, this digital politics network. We need to build critical mass so that digital democracy could become a reality. And it really moves as fast as the speed of people power. So if we can grow this quickly, and it will grow exponentially, we're already starting to hit some real momentum starting this month. And this will grow exponentially because people really want change, and this really is the solution to move democracy forward, and plug in everyone fairly. So this will grow quickly, and if we could hit critical mass quick enough in the next couple months, we can see the first stages of digital democracy by the midterm elections. So that's what the hub is for: coordinating, telling friends, sharing it on social media, plugging in journalists, candidates, stuff like that. Learning more about the mission and stuff like that. It's still in its infancy today. Just even in a couple weeks, there'll be major upgrades to the hub, clearer language and better visuals. This was like our initial like 1.0 launch, but it's going to upgrade quickly. And then the goal for digital democracy, like right now, phase one is about reaching people where they are today. Facebook, TikTok, all the regular social media platforms, using technology that already is built today. And then stage two is building from scratch a new system, like completely from scratch. So it's citizen owned, it's trusted by you guys. You have the oversight. We're making sure all the algorithms are fair. It's not about buying influence. It's all about growing organically through through resonating with citizens, and citizens wanting you to be lifted up is how you get lifted up. So phase two is all about custom made technologies purely built for the sake of a better democracy. Again, helping America choose their own leaders and not being manipulated by the system, coordination, consensus technologies, all these different pieces. So a lot of features are getting integrated now with existing stuff. Even the consensus technology, it's a project we're working on with Vote Nevada and a couple other organizations, using existing tech to build a consensus technology. It's really about the process, how we can build a process using what already exists, and then that's kind of a prototype, and then custom building our own from scratch for digital democracy. So, but at the end of the day, we want to start showing that we can make a little bit of, we can start nudging democracy in the right direction for the midterms. You know, if we, even if it's just a handful of like the key things that America cares about, and we're clear, like, this is where each candidate stands federally, and like, you know, maybe it's even just 3 issues, between like 3 and 7 issues: money in politics, you know, privacy rules, like, you know, different things that most America agrees with, and then help sway the election towards those that are actually looking to fix some of these issues. And then the next general election is really where we're going to make a huge difference, but hoping to make some impact in this current election, and ultimately just bring the buy-in and the awareness to get to a certain level, like we're really become a serious contender by the midterms, and then ongoing into the general, to like really start building this as like the digital home for America's democracy.
Absolutely. And as you were talking, Travis, I had this visual in my head of, you know, the newspaper. Yeah, it has some leanings, but the newspaper's job is to deliver information to you that you might have to, you know, put in 10 hours of work to figure out all the things happening in your town, right? So a magazine does the same thing, but the internet takes that to a whole new level, right? You can see different ways and different efforts of news organization. And um, what Fink is building is not to dictate what's in the newspaper. It is to be the delivery system and the one-stop shop that you plug in. You know, if you only care about the comic sections, great. If you only care about the obituaries, great. You know, if you only care about ranked choice voting or about voter ID laws, right? It's this very a la carte option, but it is this whole picture of community and coordination and amplification that we are building. Um, so hopefully that's fair, Travis, to have that comparison with the newspaper, um, or even a menu. I know we've been talking about that, but one place. So your time and your ability to find information is made easier, and it's made more effective, right? If you could just look at the newspaper and see, you know, who has a deal on beef that week, that's so much easier than calling each store. So what if that could be applied to civics and politics? What if you could see at a moment's glance, you know, oh, my local representative got $10 million from big pharma, but gosh, I thought they cared about reforming healthcare, but that seems incongruent. So it's identifying better those conflicts of interest and providing you the ability to vote for you. And that's my final thought, Travis.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well said. Yeah. At the end of the day, you know, think about it as like, kind of going off of what Liz is trying to get at here, is like, you know, right now it costs so much money because like the politicians, movements, everyone has to spend all this money to set to reach America where they are, like reaching you in your home, whether that's your specific email address, or a certain social media platform, or a commercial on TV, a billboard. Like, it's so expensive to bring their advertising out to the physical world. But if every American starts agreeing that this is the official home for democracy, digital democracy, and it's citizen owned, Fink's not owning it, big tech's not owning it, parties aren't owning it, you are literally going to own it. um and like, you know, that when you're doing your civic duty, or you're, you know, anything as small as like, you know, your local playground's going to get torn down for a mall, and you want to see, is there enough people that are against it that might be able to do something? Digital democracy will help you find others that might agree with you, and maybe there is enough people that can sway that decision. um but like, you know, if we all agree that there's a specific place for this stuff, that cuts out all that extra money. You don't need the billboards, you don't need the commercials. You know that everyone's in this one place. And like, yeah, there's eventually going to be a lot of different information. It's not guaranteed that if you had an organization, you're going to be seen. But it, first of all, brings it, you know, it's like, imagine, we all know that this one mall is where all your choices live. instead of it being like, oh, like, you know, you're driving around highways and you happen to see a restaurant and like, oh, that looks like a cool restaurant. Instead, it's like, no, this is the official mall. Every choice is right in one specific place. You know, so each organization, each candidate can have their visibility because you know physically where they are. You know, physically, digitally. Um, so they don't need millions of dollars for the billboard. They just need to advertise within the mall. Really, they have to prove that they're worthy of your attention within this mall infrastructure. But it's a much smaller place to say like, hey, this is who I am, this is where I stand, this is why you should support what I'm doing. And that makes it a lot easier, cheaper, more efficient, and then less overwhelming for the for citizens. And you know, it's a lot easier for everyone. It's just a win-win all around. The only ones that don't win is that concentration of power. You know, so bringing everything in one official place that's fair, it's a level playing field, and you know, you win based on merit and not money. That changes everything. This literally will change like every fabric of politics, democracy, this, and it completely brings it back into the hands of the citizens as it's always meant to be. Um, so yeah, so with that, to just wrap up, thank you guys for all being here. You know, we're still evolving this podcast. I think this was a great episode, and it's going to get stronger each week. We're tightening up our explanations and we're trying new topics and stuff to really engage everyone, and you know, really give you what you guys are looking for. Definitely follow, like, share, all that stuff is super important for us. Like, again, as we've been talking about, like, amplifying us over social media is a key way to grow this network, build the critical mass that we need to build digital democracy. So share here. Our socials everywhere is at futureis.org, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, X, you know, all the main usuals. Our website, futureis.org. Hub.futureis.org is the digital politics hub, where you could sign your name, become a citizen architect, become a future owner of this platform that we're talking about. We genuinely want your feedback, your insights, your what priorities you have, what features you're looking for. And again, it's still growing. It's still in the infancy stage, but I'm going to be growing in the next coming weeks. Just a lot of growth. This is our year of shining and growing this, and but we do need your support. You know, sharing, liking, telling friends, anyone that you think is excited about this. If you have $5, $10, donate. That's super helpful for us as well. We're going to be grassroots funding only, citizen owned, citizen funded. It's the only way this works. That no one can buy this out. So we have tons of plans, tons of ways to like really move the needle forward in the right direction, and it's all about representing you. We're not pushing any specific policies other than like democracy, like getting money out of politics, kind of a thing. So we'll see you next week. We're here every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And yeah, that's everything. We'll see you next time, guys.